What banners are going to appear in version 4.3 and which ones are actually worth pulling? Yep, this is currently a question from a huge number of players as version 4.2 is coming to an end. Even though Mortenax Blade who will become the new character in the upcoming version, it can't be denied that there are certain characters whose return many players have been waiting for in Honkai Star Rail. Now, according to the current rumors, there will be 4 banners appearing in version 4.3. In the first phase, we will be getting Mortenax Blade and Guang. Meanwhile, in the second phase, we are rumored to get Phainon and Cyrene banners, who are still considered very interesting characters to pull for right now. You guys are definitely curious about which character is the most worth pulling in version 4.3, right? So, without wasting any more time, I'm hsrguide and now we are going to discuss the gacha recommendations for version 4.3. Let's do this! Alright, real quick before we continue, for those of you playing Honkai Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero, I've got a quick recommendation for you. If you ever find yourself needing to top up, whether you're going for a new character, saving up for a banner, or you just need a few extra pulls, you might want to check out Buff. What I like about Buff is that the prices are usually more affordable compared to other platforms. And the whole process is really simple. No complicated steps, no unnecessary waiting, everything's pretty fast and straightforward. And the best thing is, you can use the voucher code hsrguide to get an extra discount on your purchase. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. You can go check it out and see if it works for you. Okay, first of all, we're going to discuss the new character banner that will release in the upcoming version. And who else could it be other than Mortenax Blade? Overall, Mortenax Blade has the fire type with the Nihility path, whose role is an important debuffer character within the team, especially for Acheron teams that specifically need Nihility characters. But wait, even though this character acts as a debuffer or support for other characters, his damage output definitely can't be considered low. Why? Because Mortenax Blade has a signature ultimate kit called Mortenax X Corpor. In short, when we use this ultimate, we will apply an effect called Pale Firebind to all enemies. Enemies affected by this debuff will suffer a 30% defense reduction and a 50% increase in damage taken for 2 turns. And it doesn't stop there. Through the effect of his ultimate, Mortenax Blade will create a special zone. While this zone is active, Mortenax Blade enters the Infinite Fury state. What's cool is that during this state, his critical rate increases by 20%, his critical damage also increases by 60%, it unlocks a special skill we can use, and it transforms his ultimate into a much stronger version called 10x per Ignem. So you could say that through this ultimate, he can provide powerful debuffs to enemies while simultaneously increasing the performance of his own kit. Besides being able to apply strong debuffs to enemies, he also has another signature kit in History section that I think has extremely high value, called Heart Rewind ad Infinitum. When the zone is active, the damage dealt by teammates increases by 50%. And what's even cooler is that if there's another Nihility character in the team besides Mortenax Blade himself, the ultimate damage dealt by teammates increases by 75%. Otherwise, Mortenax Blade's own damage increases by 75%. Now, this is the really cool side of Mortenax Blade, because this effect can work in 2 different ways depending on your team composition. Whether Blade becomes a dedicated support character for Acheron or for follow-up tag teams. Why are follow-up tag mechanics also good when paired with Mortenax Blade? Because every time a teammate attacks an enemy, the enemy will receive Pale Firebind and Blade will gain 1 charge. Once he reaches 9 charges, Blade will unleash 1 extra skill attack against enemies. So, in other words, characters that frequently perform follow-up attacks are extremely good for Mortenax Blade. But just from these kits alone, it already proves that Mortenax Blade has massive potential when paired with Acheron, who relies on ultimate attacks, and also Ashvale, who who relies on follow-up attacks. So if you have future potential partners for Mortenax Blade like Akron, Asheville, Triby, and also Hyacinth, then you absolutely must pull this character. So with a kit this good and this flexible, I'm going to give this character a score of 8.5 out of 10. In other words, super worth pulling. Okay, after Mortenax Blade, now we are going to talk about a character who just got her first rerun, which is Guang. Overall, this physical elation character is truly the definition of a must-have support if you want to build an elation team in version 4. Is this character really that good? Yep, I can confidently say that Guang is one of the most important characters you absolutely need to have in version 4, especially if you want to build an elation team right now, whose performance is already beyond question. She has a signature kit in her skill that can boost the entire team's elation level, making the team's elation damage increase massively. On top of that, every time Guang uses either basic attack or skill, she generates 3 punchlines, making punchline generation much easier. So what about her ultimate? Well, in my opinion, Guang's ultimate is insanely cool. Why? Because her ultimate can instantly trigger AHA without waiting for turns, which means all elation characters within the team can immediately trigger their respective elation skills. Is elation skill really that important? It's actually extremely important, guys, because when elation skills are triggered for characters like Silver Wolf or Evanesia, it will fill up their punchline or certified banger, which basically works the same as restoring their energy. On top of that, Guang's ultimate also provides additional all-type resistant penetration buffs to the entire team, making their damage output become even crazier. Oh yeah, she also has a really good trace for elation teams that consume a lot of skill points, because every time Guang triggers an elation skill, Guang can restore 1 skill point, which is obviously useful for characters that consume a lot of SP, such as Sparksy. So, if you're still asking whether this character is worth it or not, the answer is obviously insanely worth it. In fact, if we refer to the data from Pride.gg, Guang's usage rate in endgame modes is extremely high, guys. 33.24% in MOC, 33.46% in Pure Vision, 49.71% in Apocalyptic Shadow, and 52.98% in Anomaly Arbitration. Just from this data alone, it's already clear that this character is still being used by nearly half of the Honkai Star Rail player base right now. Pretty insane, right? So overall, right now Guang is an incredibly strong support when paired with the MC to support Evanesia or paired with Sparksy for Silver Wolf level 999 teams. Without Guang in an elation team, the performance of your elation team will obviously drop drastically and won't be able to reach its maximum damage potential. So with a kit this good, I'm not even going to hesitate to give this character a score of 9 out of 10. In other words, I highly recommend pulling this character. Alright, now we're entering the most anticipated section, which is the discussion about the characters getting reruns during Phase 2 of version 4.3. And the first character we are going to discuss here is Phainon, who is a hyper carry DPS character with the Destruction Path that currently stands as the top DPS for the physical type. Overall, Phainon is a physical type character with the Destruction Path who has a unique mechanic through his ultimate that allows him to fight alone on the battlefield. However, to trigger his best kit, you need to make sure Phainon can use his ultimate first, and then use his extremely powerful enhanced skill. So in order to achieve that, you need to bring characters that can provide buffs to teammates, such as Sunday, Bronya, or even Ceredra, because Phainon must become the target of teammate abilities in order to gain special points called Core Flame. What's cool is that when Core Flame reaches 12 points, Phainon can use this ultimate to transform and make all teammates leave the battlefield, leaving only Phainon behind. Not only that, during this ultimate mode, Phainon also creates a territory that causes enemies to gain physical weakness. Yep, this is obviously extremely good to use across various types of endgame content even when enemies originally don't have physical weakness. And it doesn't stop there. During this ultimate mode, Phainon gains 8 special turns, where on the 8th turn, he immediately unleashes a deadly final hit against all enemies before ending the territory and transformation mode. So, is this character worth pulling in version 4.3? Honestly, right now I feel that Phainon has experienced a pretty drastic decline in performance since his release back in version 3.4. Even though he is capable of dealing massive damage and can also apply physical weakness, the damage he produces is now slightly falling behind compared to the current Elation meta characters, who don't require a kit as restrictive as Phainon that depends heavily on teammates who can buff him. In fact, if we look at the data from Brightwindow.gg, Phainon's usage rate is now below Castris, with 14.59% in MOC, 13.91% in Pure Fiction, 6.98% in Apocalyptic Shadow, and 18.38% in Anomaly Arbitration. This data shows that Phainon's usage has already dropped drastically, and that his kit is no longer very compatible with the current meta. And the last thing I need to tell you guys is that if you truly want to maximize Phainon's kit, you absolutely must pull for his signature light cone, called Thus Burns the Dawn. Why? Because this light cone provides an extremely significant performance increase compared to his free light cone option, which is On the Fall of a Neon. According to the data, the performance gap reaches 33% total damage output, which is an insanely high number. As a result, this character really isn't very friendly for new players or free-to-play players. So in the end, I decided to give this character a score of 8 out of 10. And next, we are going to discuss the last character who will appear in version 4.3, which is Cyrene. As we already know, Cyrene is a character with the Ice type and the Remembrance Path who possesses a Memo Sprite in the form of her own memories. Cyrene's main uniqueness compared to the other characters is that she has a Memo Sprite skill capable of providing different buffs depending on the character, especially characters who are part of the Crisis Heir. Besides those special buffs, Cyrene also has a skill called Plume Elysium of Beyond, which can deploy a zone that causes all attacks from teammates to deal additional true damage, equal to 20% of the damage dealt. Of course, this effect is extremely similar to the true damage effect from RMC's Memo Sprite skill. The difference is that Cyrene's skill buff affects the entire team, while RMC only buffs a single character. Now, the coolest part is that the multiplier of her true damage can increase even further, guys, if you have her Eidolon too. This makes the skill feel incredibly powerful. And it doesn't stop there. Cyrene has an ultimate that can only be activated using points called Recollection. We can obtain these points whenever teammates and Memo Sprites consume future, which is granted every time Cyrene takes her turn. This naturally becomes extremely beneficial for Remembrance characters because they can automatically provide 2 recollection points through both the character and their Memo Sprite. To trigger her ultimate, Cyrene requires 24 recollection points. Once the ultimate is activated, she will summon her Memo Sprite and immediately activate Ultimate's ultimate the first time it's used, while also causing Cyrene to enter a state called Ripples of Past Reverie. This state enhances her basic attack into To Love and Tomorrow. Even though this ultimate version can only be used once during battle, the effect grants Cyrene an additional 50% critical rate and also causes the zone she creates to have no duration limit. This makes Cyrene require far less critical rate in her build. Of course, this is incredibly cool and extremely good for free-to-play players. Oh yeah, Cyrene also has a second version of her ultimate that can only be activated using 12 recollection points. This ultimate allows her Memo Sprite to immediately take action and either attack enemies or provide buffs to teammates. So, is this character worth pulling in version 4.3? Right now, I'm giving her a score of 8.5 out of 10. In my personal opinion, without a doubt, she is a really good character. Even though Cyrene can provide extremely strong buffs to the entire team along with the special buffs for Crisis Air characters, unfortunately she doesn't perform as well as other support characters in teams outside of Crisis Air or teams focused on the Remembrance path. This is because she takes a very long time to gather recollection points. So, if you don't own many characters from the Crisis Air, then the value of this character will feel significantly lower compared to the other characters available in version 4.3. Okay guys, maybe that's all for now. What do you think about these characters? Please leave any comments down below and don't forget to check out my other videos because they are no less cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.